Hello everyone, I am back from the registration for nursing school. It took longer than I thought, but with no longer ado, let's begin. Second year had just ended as class 2 were heading for summer break. This time they could choose whether to train or relax. Izuku was going to train at his father's hometown, which was in the countryside. His plan was to invite Ochako to the Midoriya family home to possibly move their relationship to the next level. He walked to the dorms to pack just like many others were doing. When he finished, he went to knock on Ochako's door, but before he could knock, he heard moans and Katsuki's voice. Round face, thanks for letting me take your first time. I bet Deku was too much of a pussy to do it with you. Izuku is usually a peaceful guy, but this was something he wouldn't let go. Izuku charged up 45% of One for All and smashed the door to bits as he saw Ochako penetrated by his bully. Izuku unleashed Black Whip around Katsuki's neck and shouted, "Get over here." The commotion caused all of Tua to rush to the scene. They all saw Ochako nude with blood on her sheets and a naked Katsuki. Everyone was disappointed in her as they turned to Izuku, who slammed Katsuki into the ground with tremendous force only to hover over him and beat his face close to being unrecognizable. Ida had called the teachers. Aizawa, Mike and All Might came at the end only to see Izuku with bloody hands toss Katsuki a handkerchief, telling him, "Clean yourself up, you bleeding." Aizawa, what the hell happened? Izuku asked the slut. All Might, Mike and Aizawa had turned to the busted door to see a sight that was like a flashback to each of them. They now realized what had transpired. They checked Bakugo's pulse, which was stable, but his face was beaten close to unrecognizable. Aizawa, any last words you want to tell your Uraraka? Izuku, I loved you. Now I see you're just a slut who's been playing me like a chump. I don't need you, it's who needs me. Look at these. Izuku shows her 2 tickets to Disneyland he bought with his own money. When she told him that she had never gone, he saved all his money to buy the best tickets, which included a hotel room. At this very same moment again, Aizawa, Mike and All Might felt like they were watching the past as this event happened to all 3 of them. Ochako, DDD Deku, I'm sorry. Izuku, fuck off bitch. Sensei's him off for summer. Aizawa, we'll see you when you get back. Everyone was shocked knowing that they let Izuku go after they witnessed the major beating he handed Katsuki. This was a side of Deku that nobody has ever seen before, which truly scared them. Hopefully he will be better once he returns after summer. Izuku had arrived to his father's hometown in the countryside. He knocked on the door, then he saw his grandparents. Izuku, hey grandma and grandpa. Grandma Megumi. Izumi, look how big you've gotten. Now where's that beautiful girlfriend you told us about? Izuku, we broke up. Grandpa Akira, something happened. They noticed Izuku's fist shaking with rage. His grandpa decided the conversation should be taken indoors. Grandpa Akira, inside you can vent to us as swear up a storm. Once inside, Grandma had made some tea and also had a batch of fresh cookies cooling off. Grandma Megumi, what happened, dear? Izuku, I caught the slut fucking Katsuki Bakugo. Grandpa Akira, I knew that boy was trash the moment your mother mentioned her friend Mitsuki having an awful temper. Izuku, it hurt so much, the girl I loved and gave my everything to. Grandpa Akira, let me give you some advice, kiddo. Izuku, I'm all ears. Grandpa Akira, forget about her, she was useless. A real woman is supposed to be a help and make your life easy, not harder. If she slept with that trash, that means she never loved you, so when the time comes, both those idiots will suffer and you'll be living a better life with a real woman who loves you. Izuku, thanks grandpa, I appreciate the talk. Akira, I'm not done, boy. Izuku, what else is there? Akira, did you know your grandmother Megumi wasn't the first woman I was involved with? Izuku, really? Akira, Izuku, I was a player back in my youth. I had multiple women and wasn't ashamed. Izuku, what happened? Akira, I met your grandmother. Izuku, how did you meet her? Akira, she had caught my attention. Her beautiful black hair, her beautiful emerald eyes, she was enchanting. I went over to her to spit some game and next thing I know she rejected me. Izuku, how are you married if she rejected you? Akira, I attempted many things in order to attract her attention, but all of them failed. The last thing I tried was erase every form of contact I had with every other woman I was involved with. When your grandmother saw that, she decided to give me a chance because I changed my ways. After 3 years of being together as a couple, we got married. A year later, your father was born. On the day your father was born, I held him in my arms, and that's when I knew that I had made the right decision in my life. Izuku, so you're saying the first woman I meet won't always be the one I'm destined with? Akira, exactly kiddo, now go get settled in. Izuku, thanks grandpa. Akira, anytime kiddo. Izuku went to the guest room and begun unpacking. Afterward, he also deleted every trace of Ochako from his life. This included pictures, letters, texts. That's when another text came and it was from her. It read, "Can we talk?" It was at that point he blocked her number and decided to move on without regrets. This was a new beginning for him. A family of 3 began driving to the countryside. This family had shared one quality: they all possessed a form of reptile quirk. This was the family of Setsuna Takagi. She and her parents promised to visit her grandparents the summer of her 2nd year. When they finally arrived, the family had a great lunch and Setsuna was told about a summer festival that she could go to. Her grandparents told her about their neighbors. The Midoriyas had a grandson her age she could go with. Setsuna began to think about the family name Midoriya. Her first thought was of Izuku from UA, but she didn't want to get her hopes up. It was midday, and people were preparing for the festival. Setsuna's grandmother had pulled out an old yukata that she wore when she was young and passed it down to her. Then she took Setsuna to the Midoriya home to try and set up a date between the two teens. Knock knock. Izuku was home alone since his grandparents had gone to prepare the stand that they would manage. Izuku, Takage-sen, what are you doing here? Setsuna, my grandmother thought maybe we should go on a festival date. Oh, but you brought Achako with you, huh? Izuku, we broke up after I caught her sleeping with Katsuki. Setsuna was shocked at hearing this. She was 100% sure Achako was faithful. She also had a crush on Izuku, so this seemed like the perfect opportunity to get close to him. Setsuna, then would you like to be my date to the festival? Izuku, that would be great. I'd really like to get to know you better. Setsuna had a pink blush which Izuku noticed as he placed his forehead against hers. He told her, you're really warm, do you have a fever? Setsuna, and no, just warm. Well, my grandma and I gotta go. Izuku, okay, what time do you want me to pick you up? Grandma Takage, please pick her up at 8. The two Takage women had gone back home and discussed what happened. Setsuna, Grandma, what am I gonna do? I don't have a yukata for the festival. Grandma Takage, don't worry dear, I'll give you my old yukata. It was the same one I wore when me and your grandfather met. As days progressed, Setsuna was still very nervous about this date. Things couldn't get worse. It wasn't until Setsuna's grandmother showed her a strip of condoms and said to her, you'll probably need these. Izuku wore a dark green yukata that was given to him by his grandfather. He then went next door to pick up his date. He saw her wear a lighter shade of green. They arrived at the festival and went to many of the stalls. There was a stall that sold dinosaur-shaped sweets with All Might's face on the body. There were also games and other activities to participate in. The two teens laughed as they enjoyed themselves, but what wasn't noticed was the fact they held hands the entire time. For Izuku, it felt natural, as if Setsuna was the one for him. When Setsuna noticed it, she didn't pull her hand away to her. She felt like the missing piece was finally found. The date they shared was enjoyable. When Izuku dropped her off home, he planted a kiss on Setsuna's cheek, but that wasn't enough for her. She smashed her lips on his. As they broke the kiss, Setsuna saw a note on the door that read, went out to dinner with the Midoriyas. Setsuna felt very bold and she didn't want the night to end. Setsuna, care to take this inside? She said after unlocking and opening the door. That was all that was needed to be said, as Izuku had picked her up bridal style, carried her inside, closing and locking the door behind him. Hey Izuku here, I don't know, but if you want to read the smut you will find it in Discord if you into that stuff, but yeah, let's get back to the story. He carefully removed the condom and disposed of it, but before he could clean the excess off his penis, Setsuna had shoved his cock in her mouth and cleaned it for him. The two laid in bed naked as Setsuna was on top of Izuku, cuddling into his chest. Setsuna, you know, that was amazing. Izuku, glad you liked it. Setsuna, I know we did things out of order, but can I confess something? Izuku, sure, what's up? Setsuna, I've been in love with you since the sports festival. The way you dominated first round D. The way you strategized in round 2 and finally saving your friend Todoroki. I truly admired you, but what made me fall for you was the way you fought and were able to adapt during the fight between 1A and 1B. What I'm trying to say is that I'd like it if you'd give me a chance to be your girlfriend. Izuku stayed silent and contemplated for a few seconds. He planted another kiss on Setsuna's lips and gave her a response. Izuku, I'd love it if you'd be my girl. Izuku and Setsuna had announced their relationship to their families the day after the festival, which they were all happy for the newly formed couple. As weeks passed, Izuku and Setsuna spent a lot of time together. She also joined him for training sessions, which helped her improve as well. Thanks to training, Setsuna's quirk had evolved, so she now knew how to spit acid. One night after a training session, the two teens had gone home after spending the day together, but Izuku was uncomfortable because all day he spent with joint pain. The next morning, Izuku felt off as he tried to change out of his pajamas. They were too tight on him. They looked like they shrunk. He took notice that his arms looked thicker. His grandpa walked in to wake him for breakfast. Akira, Izuku, get ready for break. Izuku, can you help me get out of these clothes? As Izuku heard his voice, he heard more bass than usual, which confused him more. Akira, Izuku, you got a crazy growth spurt last night before bed. You were 5'5", now you're 6'6". Your voice dropped too. After getting Izuku out of the tiny clothes, Akira had gone out and got him a few shirts, pants, boxers, and a new pair of shoes. He also gave him cash to buy more clothes when he goes back home. When Setsuna laid eyes on the bulkier and taller Izuku, she fell in love all over again. What saddened her was that she and her parents had to go back to the city since they only planned on staying a short time. The two exchanged text messages and promised to see each other soon. Once Setsuna left, Izuku began to think about theories about how or what caused One for All to change his body. So to prove something, he went to the highest mountain and launched a 100% smash. To his surprise, nothing was broken. So for the last remaining weeks, Izuku trained using 100% full cowling. When his final week was up, he packed up everything, said goodbye to his grandma and grandpa. With that, see you guys next video. Bye bye. Even thought this series is short, but bye bye.